Overtired. So tired. Overtired.
Hey there, friendly listeners. You are tuned in to Overtired. This is Brett Terpstra. I am here, as always, with Christina Warren. Jeff is currently in Africa. So, filling in for Jeff, we have Bryan Guffey, friend of the show, longtime connection, silky smooth voice. How's it going, Bryan?
That's for Jeff. I
That's
can
for
do
Jeff.
it because I'm black.
See? But yeah, okay.
I just popped into my head. Yeah, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
It's Saturday. After a week in which the 4th of July is on a Tuesday is one of the weirdest weeks in existence.
Yeah.
Did you guys have to work Monday?
I took the whole week off.
Oh wow, nice.
Smart. We got Sonos gave everybody Monday off. So that was
Good.
great. Yeah.
I technically worked Monday, but I didn't work. Nobody scheduled any meetings, so I just kind of like kept Slack giving me notifications all day, but went hiking instead. I have a 2-week vacation coming up.
Ooh.
It's gonna be nice.
That's
Where
Yeah.
you going? Are you going somewhere or are you staying home? Yeah.
For me, an ideal vacation is doing nothing. I may be headed to Chicago. I might try to make it to the Midwest barbecue that happens right before MaxStock. I'm not gonna make it to MaxStock itself this year, but it would be cool to go see all my podcaster friends that show up there and everything.
Yeah, I need to get out to Chicago because apparently it's impossible to do a regular podcast with Alex. But I would like to see them in person.
Yeah.
Yeah, what was
Queer is on infinite hiatus.
Oh, that sucks.
But
That was
that's
a good
partially
show.
because Alex has had like so many cat issues.
Okay.
So it's just been really hard. Like they just have been like dealing with sick cat. And so it's just been struggling to find a time. And then Quinn has had to go back into the office. And yeah, we'll get there. We haven't given it up.
On our last road trip, Elle and I binged Two-Headed Girl, and it was delightful. I feel like I got to know Alex and Maddie really well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So should we do a little mental health check-in? Are you guys prepared to bare your souls for the listening public?
Sure.
Sure. I've already bared
have
my ass for the public, so why not?
I'm gonna have a glass of wine while you guys talk for a second. Go ahead.
Okay. Do you want to start, Bryan? Guess first.
Sure. My mental health is like in that unsure okay space where about maybe a month ago my therapist and I made a realization that a thing that I thought that I had like processed that was a trauma in my life I had not processed at all and was still like undergirding so much of like my like instinctual reactions. And so I've been doing a lot of work on like when I get body snatched back into like trauma land, like regrounding myself. And it's going mostly okay, but it's still trying to like every time I don't land it effectively, it still feels like a big failure.
Sure.
But now I'm paying attention to it.
Yeah.
So, it's in that space of like, I think we've got the thing to work on, but also it's just like really exhausting. And because of course it's like relational, like it's just even harder. Like it was just a thing for me and myself. I wouldn't have to worry about like my impact on other people, but it's like me in relation to another person where the issues come. So, and then
feel
of course,
you so hard.
Yeah. And then the other thing is like, we might have to reschedule vacation plans because after I got my job at Sonos last year, I thought I was rich.
Mm,
and then was irresponsible with money. And
sure.
it turns out that flying to Portugal and Spain is kind of expensive.
Yeah.
So, we're working through things, but like overall, like day to day, I feel pretty good. Just it's like you never know when the wave is going to hit. So,
Yeah. All right. Well, I actually will go next because that struck a lot of chords for me. I am first off, well, okay, let me do this in an order that makes sense. I am going through some stuff in my own relationship right now that is making me examine like every single one of my insecurities. And one thing that has come up hardcore is religious trauma that I have. These like intellectually, I believe one thing, and I believe people should be one way. But my upbringing, like rails against that. So I have what my brain says and what my mouth says to my partner should be true. And then when things become real, like I have these deep seated emotional, like physical reactions to certain situations. And I've been able to trace it back to like things that were instilled in me, like under threat of hell, as a child. And I discussed some of this with my therapist, who was impressed that I had figured out where it came from, but couldn't do shit to help me. So I have an appointment with a new therapist in 3 weeks, that I'm looking forward to. It's a woman. I feel like I'm going to relate better to a woman than this bro dude that I've been seeing. Um, I'm looking forward to that. I'm hoping that she will be able to work with me on some of this, because like it's not just me. Like I'm really happy. Like I hate that this happened, right? I hate that this is happening in my relationship. It sucks. It hurts. Like it feels shitty. But also, like I had no idea I felt this way. I had no idea I would react this way. And the fact that this got brought to the surface, yeah, it sucks. It's shitty, but now I can deal with it. And now it can grow in a way that I didn't even realize I needed to grow. So, so it's a mixed bag. We'll call it a mixed bag.
Well, I mean, I'm
yeah.
glad to hear that at least. So I'm going to be the downer. My mental health is pretty shit right now, to
Oh,
be honest.
Ugh,
I'm sorry to hear that.
That's one of the reasons why I haven't been that active on social, because this is what I do when my mental health is bad. Like there's only so much. Like I still have to do my day job, and I still have to like be able to pseudo function as a human, and there are only so many cycles and things you can do. And like my way of masking is not it's not like I guess people who are on the spectrum sort of way. It's a little bit different. It's more like I have to like mask that I'm not depressed.
yeah.
And so I mean it's similar, but it's a different type of thing. And so there's only so much energy you can expand with that. So mine has been pretty shit. This the reason I took this past week off, which was really good. I just took the whole week for mental health reasons, because I'm not in a great space and I'm not performing and I'm not doing well, and it's kind of got to that point. So I'm not doing great, but having the week off was really good. And I'm hoping I have my next appointment with my shrink is in, I think, like a week and a half. And when we talked last time, he mentioned to me there are some new antidepressants that are similar to ketamine, because they do similar things, and it's like based on similar like pharmacological stuff, but it's not ketamine. So
Yeah.
it's much easier. So you can actually take it orally. And so there's like one drug that got approved by the FDA last August. So it's been on the market for a year now, and the studies and the papers are all really good. And so I'm going to talk to him about trying that and seeing if that sort of thing could help, because I think I'm at the point now where my medication isn't working, and I've
Yeah.
been
Yeah.
in denial about that for a really long time, like a really long time.
Mhm.
And it's gotten to the point where I'm just like, I can't be in denial about this
Yeah.
anymore. So
Yeah. Well,
that's my
sending you
that's the upside.
sending you lots of love and hugs.
Thank
I
you.
know this is so hard. But I am so proud of you for doing the things that you need to do to take care of yourself.
Thank you.
Uh,
Thank you.
yeah,
Yeah, no,
absolutely.
and it's hard because I'm public and in insofar as like I obviously do this podcast and I've never lied or hidden, like my mental health struggles, but it's not my brand and it's not the thing that I want to be known for. And I respect people who do want to like make that what they're known for and really want to advocate for that. I really respect that, but that's not me. And so it's always weird when when I feel like I've reached a place from like, okay, this is actually impeding my life in a way that I now have to, like uh, talk about it with people both publicly and then also like my colleagues, which that honestly sucks more than talking about it with strangers listening to your podcast or with your friends over the internet. Like that's the real shit, because
Yeah.
it's fine when it's an abstract. And I think a lot of people who you work with are fine with it as an abstract. You really see how people react and how people really feel when it actually like could potentially impact them or when how it's impacting you is something that they have to, grapple with. Like that,
Yeah.
that's the real truth, because everybody I think thinks, oh yeah, I'm fine with this sort of thing. And then you're maybe you are, and some places really are, and some employers and employees really coworkers really are. And some people really aren't. So
Yeah.
that's always
And
the scary
until
thing.
you're confronted with the reality, you might not even know
Yep.
how you feel about something. So I can tie our two together in that way.
Totally.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard the Huberman Lab?
No.
It's a podcast with this guy. I don't know if he's like a neuroscientist but he does like extensive research into like medications and talks about like brain science. And the last one is about like eye health, but it's like a solo podcast. It's just him like sharing research and talking. Occasionally he'll have guests, but I would recommend that. I'm going to drop that in the show
Yes,
notes.
please do.
He did an awesome episode on ketamine and hallucinogenic treatments, and he did a great one on ADHD medication, on like Adderall and Vyvanse and non-stimulant treatments and how they work and why they work and who they don't work for. It was really enlightening. But that's Huberman Lab.
I'm always really impressed by solo podcasters
Yeah, I
because like
get it.
that's just gotta be like to just mainline your own self talking
What
for like
what
an
I'm
hour.
impressed by is successful solo podcasters. People who are actually as interesting as they think they are when they sit down to record a solo podcast.
Yeah,
'Cause
I mean, right.
that's a fine line right there.
It really, really is a fine line. You know that if Elon Musk was a podcaster, he would be a
Oh my
failed
God.
solo podcaster.
Oh,
Oh,
absolutely.
of course he would. Of course he would. Because no, it is always interesting, and there are some solo podcasters who can do okay, just like radio hosts. But yeah, Elon would totally be a solo podcaster because he doesn't want to hear anybody else's thoughts.
Well, can you imagine Joe Rogan just by himself, just talking his shit for an hour at a time?
No,
I
no.
mean,
But and
the
here's the
world
thing.
would have been better off if he did that because it would have ended sooner.
I was gonna say the unfortunate thing is that Joe Rogan is not a dumb person, which is kind of going back to like a thing we were talking about pre-show about certain people. He's not a dumb person, and he's actually a very good entertainer and a very good like live performer, and understands that for the medium that he's doing with podcasting, he needs other people. And Dave Portnoy, who I also can't stand, but also have to kind of respect his skills. He's the guy from Barstool Sports. Is another thing. Like his podcasts are. I know I completely understand why they're successful, and he's also a guy who does solo TikToks that are compelling. I hate that because I can't stand the guy, but he's compelling. But he knows he's compelling in like 90-second doses.
Yeah. Should we take a quick sponsor break?
We should. That's a great segue.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by none other than Mark Zuckerberg, the confident evil billionaire. If you're looking for a winner in the cage match and a billionaire who would rather waste his money on failed virtual reality ventures than phallic space exploration vehicles, Zuck is your guy. Head to zuckerbergforpresident.com to save 100% on your subscription to Facebook where your data goes farther than any other service. That's ZuckerbergMMA.com for 100% off of your identity. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Mark. We really appreciate it, especially on, the day 3 of your new social media project, Thread.
Oh, the perfect lead in to one of our topics. Should we talk about the Threads specifically, but also the landscape of social media
Yeah.
in the death throes of Twitter?
Yes, we have to.
Absolutely.
So, Christina, tell us what Threads is.
Okay, so Threads is Twitter, missing a number of features, but it's Twitter except you use Instagram as your login. And it turns out that that's really all you have to do if you want to get. They had 70 million users in 2 days. And to be clear, this is not people who this is people who had to manually download the app and then opt to log in.
Yeah.
So this is 70 million signups, like actual things in under 2 days. They're going to hit 100 million probably within the first week, easily. And so it's one of the most successful social app launches of all time. But it is essentially Twitter missing a bunch of features. And again, is kind of telling that you can literally do the bare minimum. Like all these Twitter clones, Mastodon, Blue Sky, what's the queer one that has been in invite only status?
Is that Spill?
Yes, Spill, a bunch of other ones, like all these things that have tried Post. There's T2, all these things. Like they had to go out of their way to really be like, oh, but look at all these features and look at this and that. And then if you have the network effect, you can literally do the minimum viable product that is real minimal, and you can get 70 million plus users in 2 days.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I listened to 2 podcasts where Adam Mosseri was on.
Mm-hmm.
I think Hard Fork and then
The Vergecast.
The Vergecast, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was fascinating. It's very interesting that.
And just for clarification, Adam Mosseri runs Instagram at Facebook. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, and Adam Mosseri is a very interesting man because Adam Mosseri is the one who's like, we're going to change everything about Instagram, and everybody hated him, and then he's like, no, we're not. So he's used to getting out there and saying things that people may not like. But this was one. I think what's really interesting to me is that they're trying to create Twitter, but not about news.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what they say.
Yeah.
I wonder how much of that has to do with the EU lawsuit, which is ongoing. So this is interesting. 70 million users, and if you live in Europe, you can't even sign up unless you use an Apple ID or Google Play account that is not based in the EU. Which, look, even if you agree with the EU on this, my personal opinion, this is just the American in me. I think that banning apps from app stores based on their country and whatnot, I think that's bullshit. I think it's bullshit when China does it. If the US tries to ban TikTok, I think it's bullshit. I think it's bullshit when the EU does it. Honestly, that's some draconian level, just that's fucked. But putting that aside, I wonder if this whole statement about saying, oh, we don't want to be about news, it's not worth a small amount of money for us, is because of the lawsuits they're in, where they might have to pay publishers and people per post or whatever.
And the Canada thing too, yeah.
Yeah, the Canada thing, exactly. So I wonder if it's not so much that they care or they want to disencourage it, but if they're just we have to very publicly make it clear, because Twitter famously changed the way that the app was put in the App Store, I think in 2016, to be a news category rather than in the social category. So Twitter actively went into that direction, right? So there was a meme a while back where people were like, oh, look at how far Blue Sky is trended and Twitter's not even in the top 5. And I was like, that's not where Twitter is categorized. So I wonder how much of that is legitimate and how much of that is based on the lawsuits, and this is just them saying the right things to try to avoid the government's trying to force them to pay for stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, but it's also weird because it is interesting because they also are applying Instagram's level of moderation.
Yes.
And filtering to it, which to me, again, since one of my primary uses for Twitter is porn. Like, I'm just not sure how, I mean, except that there seem to be all of these people signing up, but we'll see how long they stay around.
Right.
Like, is there interest, like, can you have a text-based social network that is sustainable and, I mean, it doesn't have to be that big in the scheme of Facebook for it to matter or Instagram for it to matter, but that like people will use and doesn't get boring if you're not getting into fights about news or looking at porn?
Yeah. No, I think that's a good point. Brett, your thoughts? Because I have many thoughts on this, but I don't want to dominate this conversation.
No,
So.
no, please continue.
Okay, so I totally agree with you. And I think this is this interesting thing. And so I've been working on this thesis in my mind basically since this launched. And even the fact that like I'm embarrassed by this. I was like user like 444,000, which to me is way, way high. Like on any social network, like I feel like I should be way lower on the list. MG Siegler, who wrote a great post for his blog, 500 words ish, though I think it was more than 500 words. He had a really great analysis that has usually with MG stuff is like everything I've been saying in group chats, but didn't actually take the time to write because that's why he is great. He actually gets the words out. But he was, he'd been in Europe. And so he was like overnight. So he's like user 1 million or something. And he was mad about that. And I agree.
710,000.
Right. And see, we're early adopters. And this is the thing. I kind of had this epiphany over the last few days. I don't think Threads is for posters. I think it's for normies. And
Yeah, I was
that's
just gonna say, is it
interesting.
Twitter for normies? Yeah.
I think it is. And the thing is I look, as a poster, I don't like that. And I feel alienated and I feel wronged. And I feel like this isn't a place for me. But then I have to look at where the social landscape is today. And I have to ask myself and be very honest to say, has the moment that allowed Twitter 1.0 to exist, has that passed? And would you even be able to, if you didn't have, the monopolies of scale and whatnot, and you didn't have the Elon Musk bullshit and whatnot, could you even create like what Twitter 1.0 is now? Like, would the landscape that exists now accept it? And I don't think it would. And so there's a part of me that even though I'm always going to be skeptical about what the long-term interest in these sorts of things is, because I think Twitter is a great example of this, where, the number of people who signed up for Twitter accounts in 2011 and then posted a few times and never came back is massive. I wonder if there is a larger sustainable base of normies and non-posters, and if that's what this is, and if this could almost succeed by just virtue of getting people that would never post to Twitter to begin with. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, it's an interesting thing to think about. It's not for us, though. This is not for posters.
And what's interesting is I was an early Twitter sign-up person, but I did not really start using Twitter until 2019. There was a period in which I caught like back-to-back-to-back bans on Facebook for talking about white people. Surprise. And so like Twitter being much more lax about that stuff. Like I got into Twitter because I couldn't use Facebook. I couldn't talk to people on Facebook.
And that's a lot of people's story, right? I mean, I think that's the thing, is that Twitter has always had that much more and this is the irony, both on the right and the left, is for all the people who've complained about Twitter's censorship policies one way or another, it has, honestly, for better or worse, been the least resistant of any of the services. Like their terms of service and their content guidelines early on were basically non-existent. They were like, you can't have porn in your header or in your profile photo. And that was basically it, like originally. And, Facebook is not like that. And, but most platforms are not like that.
Right.
But there's a question that I have in my mind, which is, I think that Twitter had an inordinate, and this has always been the case, it had an inordinate amount of influence compared to its relative size, and certainly compared to the amount of money that it made, and that advertisers were willing to spend on it. And I think that was largely because the posters, TM, that were on it were, news people, media people, and there were some celebrities who would get into high profile feuds, but even most of the celebrities left over the years, right? And then once it became a Donald Trump and an Elon Musk thing, then that became like a thing that kept it in the news. But like, I don't know. I feel like Twitter itself has lost a lot of that relevancy.
Oh yeah.
and that aspect. And I don't think that's really the case anymore, for a variety of reasons. And so, I don't think you can ever. I don't know if you can ever recreate like what Twitter was in that sense, that this is like the place where highly influential people are talking. I don't know if you can recreate that and have this relatively small service have this outsized amount of attention and influence. But B, I wonder if you were going to do a social posting app, if the normie way, as again, like it's not for us, potentially, like if that could actually be successful, just because the boringness, the sanguineness, the brands, like normie, photos, the lack of nudes, the lack of, threatening to set people on fire, it would be able to work, because I mean, it works for Instagram, it works for TikTok. YouTube is a little more lax, but these are all the platforms that thrive, and they're much more normie based. So I don't know.
How does Threads launch without hashtag support? That's some Twitter
Well,
1.0 shit right there.
That's because normies don't care about hashtags.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they say it's on the roadmap. Here's my
Yeah.
read. They've been working on this for a while. I think that they took advantage of the fact that when Twitter last week, for the various reasons, turned off its scraping stuff, which also now, based on the lawsuit that Musk is
Well-
threatening, might be tied to what they thought Threads was going to do. I think that they pushed up the launch.
Well, in the rate limits on Twitter,
Yes. Yeah.
whose brilliant idea was that? I gotta assume Musk decided
Yeah.
we're gonna limit how many tweets people can read.
What-
That's just fucking dumb.
I read that, what I read from somebody, and I'll see if I can find the link, but they were talking to somebody who used to be a Twitter SRE. And they were talking about how, if, first of all, it's unlikely that the cover story, like we're getting all our data scraped, so we're going to block that, is the real reason. And it's much more that like things were starting to not work well in a way, and that they needed to throttle the system usage. And somebody was saying like that means that like a lot of things are going wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's probably correct. I think part of it was for cover story. I do wonder, especially with how quickly they had the lawsuit threat planned, and the language that was used there, if they got word that maybe Threads was expanding their beta, and they started thinking, okay, we know we have a number of former employees working there, and we are concerned that Threads might be scraping us or some other things, because there were a lot of Twitter scraping sites. But I
Yeah.
don't
Oh, yeah.
I don't think they impacted. I don't know if they impacted performance or anything else, and if that was kind of his like impulsive, well, we must shut down this potential competitor. And instead, all he really did was potentially accelerate. This is, again, all my unfounded speculation. So do not take any of this as anything that is for anything more than that is. This is completely unfounded. It basically was like, okay, this is backfiring, and Threads launched. Because I have a feeling that Threads wasn't planned to launch the week that it launched. I have a
No, I
feeling
think
that
they even literally said that was the case.
yeah, I mean, I think they took advantage of the moment that all this is happening, and that's if you are the ostensible, on paper CEO of Twitter who's trying to reassure advertisers and sign them back up, and then your real boss cuts off the API or throttles how many posts people can see, doesn't let people view things logged in, all things that advertisers are going to hate, and then the company that literally has the best relationship with advertisers love,
Oh, yeah.
love, because A, they will give you all kinds of data, and B, they have just a massive audience, and they launched their text thing, and they don't have ads yet, but they're already talking to brands. Man, wow, that would make your job as the on-paper CEO really hard, wouldn't it? Because
Yeah.
if you have so much spend to do on a text platform, I don't think you're going to spend it on both.
Yeah, and this is what Facebook or Meta is good at,
Yep.
is like the operational excellence of being able to be like, all right,
Yes.
we're going to launch this thing early. We're going to make it happen.
And it broke a little bit, but it stayed up. Like there were errors, but it was so impressive to see that number of users coming. And yes, there were errors and it was janky. And I was like, I can't even drag this, because this is literally the best I've ever seen Can you even imagine onboarding 70 million users in 2 days? Like, that's
I mean, let's
unreal.
talk about what happened to Blue Sky right after the rate
Yes.
limits happened. So, like, I mean, as we can expand our conversation into some of these other social networks, there's the most buzziest before Threads was Blue Sky, which
Totally.
is ex Twitter, which is was originally spun out of Twitter.
Right?
Started with money from Jack Dorsey and
Mhm.
Twitter, I think, actually.
Yeah.
Just took a new $8 million seed round.
Yep.
Um,
Literally announced the day Threads launched. Awful timing. I felt so bad for them. I felt so bad for them.
And the reason probably they announced it that day was the 2 days before that, they were getting hammered left and right because everybody was
Mhm.
jumping to Blue Sky because of the rate limits on Twitter. I think Blue Sky is very weird.
I agree.
It's
I
like,
don't-
again,
I
it still feels like Twitter for normies to some degree.
I don't cotton. I don't cotton to it. I don't
Twitter
like
for
it.
shit posters.
Yeah,
I like Jake Tapper, and that's about the only good thing about Blue Sky.
I was gonna say Blue Sky is for posters. Literally, Blue Sky. It's like I feel like Blue Sky and Threads are like are opposite sides of the same coin. Like one is explicitly for posters, one is explicitly for normies. And I think that this is what's sort of frustrating is that Twitter was that happy medium. I don't know if we can ever have that again.
Right, because because Blue Sky really feels like it's just there's a large contingent of people there who are not just posters but shit posters. Like,
Oh, yeah.
the post is the joke, is the meme. Like, and what for me, I am an earnest poster,
Right.
almost to a fault, and
Which does not work
so-
there. Which
No,
doesn't work there. Yeah.
not at all work there. But there was enough of a dilution on Twitter. On Twitter, you could find everybody.
Yes. Well, that's the thing. And this is what I think like makes me saddest about Twitter as inevitable demise and decline and whatnot, even if it continues as an ongoing concern, is that for me, for so many years, it was my primary social platform because it was the only place where I could be all parts of myself. I could be the
Yes.
shit poster. I could be like the earnest person. I could be the tech person. I could be the pop culture stan. I could be like all those things. And I would have different followers for different reasons, and I would be discovered by different people in different groups, and I never felt like I had to stick in one box. On Blue Sky, I do feel like I have to basically be in shit poster mode. On Mastodon, I feel like I have to be in more tech earnest mode. I'm still figuring out what I can be on Threads, and it's weird because Instagram has always been more curated, but I've never invested a ton of time in Instagram.
Nope.
And I mean, I have like 6,000 followers there, which for my standards is like, I know this
Pretty
sounds
good.
awful. Yeah, but compared to my other, compared to my other accounts, it's not.
1,000.
But compared to my other accounts, it's like
Sure.
microscopic.
Nothing.
And so, but here's what's interesting: 2-3 days on Threads, I already have 1,000 followers more than I had on Blue Sky, where I was active and actively posting up until like my mental health
because
stuff.
everyone
I
who
know.
followed you on Instagram automatically
I
becomes
know.
a follower.
Well, not automatically. Like you have to opt in. I chose not
sure.
to do that
Because
for
there
instance.
is no follow, and because there is no following right now, because it's all algorithm. The graph is all algorithmic. Like that
Yeah.
timeline, there is no following right now. So, and they say that's on the roadmap, which is
Yep.
fascinating because they've been leaning so hard into the algorithmic thing
Mhm.
that I think that that's one of Twitter's strengths.
I agree.
Can I
You
tell
know?
my joke? Can I tell my
Yes.
joke that went really poorly on Threads?
Yes, I
I'm
would
so
love to hear
excited.
it.
Yeah, I saw it. It was so good.
I kicked off my account with a meme that said, "My friend got mad at me for sniffing his sister's panties. I'm not sure if it was because she was still wearing them or because his whole family was present. Either way, it made the rest of the funeral really awkward."
So good.
such a good
It's so
joke.
good.
It got
So
It's
two
so
likes.
good because
two
because
likes.
this is the thing though. That's because Twitter is like, or like because Instagram, like that's not the Instagram content.
No, it's not. Not even remotely.
Yeah, but that's so good
I
because
should I should note that at the bottom of this meme, there's a picture of Yahweh, God, and he says Noah, and the next frame his eyes are lit up and it says get the boat.
I love that joke because there are 3 different points where you're like, holy shit, holy shit, Holy shit.
I said the whole thing straight faced to someone as if I were giving them an update on something that really happened to me last night, and it took a minute for them to process that this was a joke. And
Brett, that's a TikTok joke, Brett.
I'm not on TikTok.
Like that's a,
I was
but
going to say
you could-
TikTok
that's a
would
cut-
actually be
that's a
really
cut-
into that.
That's a cutscene TikTok joke that would work really well. I saw somebody who did a TikTok where, like, and maybe I saw it again because this is how the world works now. And this is my other thesis, which is that Twitter is particularly great for ADHD posters.
Oh, 100%.
Because of that thing where we can dip into all of our different interests so easily.
Yeah.
And this idea that I have to post to 5 different social networks, no thank you. Like, absolutely not. Do not have the focus to post across multiple social networks.
Do you remember? So I have gotten multiple requests on various networks, mostly on Mastodon, for a revival of my first app, Mood Blast.
Ooh.
I had written an app, mostly in AppleScript. Actually, I was just getting into Macs at the time, and I had written an app that would post to Jaiku and
Yes.
Adium and Skype and Twitter and Facebook all at once, and you could use like different codes and stuff. It had like a command line syntax when you were posting to like determine what went where, and you could set your chat status at the same time as you like sent out a status update, and it was in its day. It was good. It was very popular. It's how I met like Merlin Mann. It's how I got my gig at the Unofficial Apple Weblog.
I was gonna say I'm almost positive that I used Mood Blaster.
Yeah, David Chartier wrote about like every single update I ever put out to it. Like Chartier
Amazing.
wrote about it on the blog. And people are like, we're back to those Wild West days.
We are.
where you don't know what's gonna win the battle yet, and everything seems new and fresh.
Yep. Yeah, which is interesting.
It would be great.
It would. I mean, I wish we could do that. I mean, I think it's interesting. Matthew Castellini, the shortcuts guy, was writing about that I think about potentially creating shortcuts so you could cross post things, which actually is a pretty good rudimentary way to get around some of the API challenges for Twitter and whatnot. I will say this is the one aspect of Threads that has me sort of excited, and that is that they have said publicly like their commitment to ActivityPub, because putting aside the drama of all the various instances that won't federate with it because they're fucking babies and don't think about their users and are little bitches. Like, I'm sorry, but that's my opinion. Like, if I think that should be a user decision, not a admin decision. But I also find most, not all, but most Mastodon admins to be on power trips because they are like Reddit admins and Wikipedia editors times 10. But like, if you think about that, if they adopt ActivityPub, that then opens up really interesting possibilities for being able to cross post and maybe customize, like you were saying, with like your mood, like Ice Cubes, which is a Mastodon app, this week introduced like the first kind of iteration of their using a Blue Sky bridge, so you can post to Blue Sky from Ice Cubes, which is awesome. And it doesn't do everything, but it does a lot of stuff, and like that's really cool. Manton, who's been doing micro.blog for like almost 10 years now, like I'm sure that as soon as Instagram or Threads or whatever has integration, will build that into micro.blog, and I feel like he's really been on the forefront of the best options for all of us as we try to determine where to go. But yeah, I think if you could bring back Mood Poster, that would be amazing.
I do appreciate that these new services are putting APIs forefront in their plans. Like Threads is planning to be ActivityPub compatible. Blue Sky has its own API, its own framework, I guess. That is easy to work with. Like the number of integrations is already, there are already numerous ways to post to Blue Sky. And that's what made Twitter in the
Yes.
early days.
No, it's 100% what
And
made Twitter.
and I hope that they continue. I hope they don't pull a Twitter and let third-party developers make their app big and then fuck them over. Although I have no reason to believe that won't be the case.
Yeah, I mean,
Once you start making money, once you have the footing, why wouldn't you cut those people out? But
I mean, I think it depends, right? Because it's sort of like, I mean, like it took Reddit, 15 years to do that, and so you're right, it might be inevitable, but at the same time, like if you're using a protocol, unless you want to rewrite everything you've done, which look, you could, but that's a lot of work. Um, I don't know. I feel like at Proto, which is what Blue Sky uses, and if they really do, if Threads really does come to ActivityPub, which people were already finding ActivityPub stuff within it before it even launched, so I think that it's already kind of there. They just haven't turned on the Federation stuff. I will say this was something that was interesting that our audience is probably going to be some of the only people who are interested in this, that I discovered in like the first hour of playing with Threads. It has an export function. I'm sure this is for GDPR reasons. However, it is better than like the Instagram, like request all of your data thing. There's a way for you to export all of your threads from the app. Now, it's weird how it does it. It doesn't give you a JSON file. It doesn't give you whatnot. You have a few different places you can export to. And this is what the weird part is. One is Blogger. Okay. Yeah.
okay.
One is some journal service that I've never heard of. One is WordPress.com via Jetpack, and that's sort of
Okay.
interesting. And
Yeah.
then the third one, the fourth one, and this was the one that I tried because I thought that it was going to do it in a way that was different than it did, was Google Docs.
Really?
The way that it does it, and I only had like 10 threads at the time, so don't do this if you have a lot of threads, was that it literally creates a doc for every single
my God.
post that you've made.
Oh,
That's useless.
no.
It is
That's-
useless. It is
that's
useless. It is useless.
useless.
But here was interesting. The media that was embedded in those things is also embedded in the Google Doc.
Interesting.
And I have
Right.
to say, like, again, janky as all get out. Blogger is weird. It seemed like
For
this was
sure.
like I don't know if they found some sort of other open source thing that they just like reuse. Again, this journaling service that I've never heard of. It was a weird ass thing, but I was like, okay, this is here day one. So clearly some of the engineers have been playing with this idea of archiving from the get-go, and that's even better than Mastodon right now, because Mastodon to get your data out is kind of a pain in the ass and not a great process at all.
If-
And this is like the best of all of them, even though the places you could port it to are weird.
Is Blogger just a call out to Ev?
I have no idea. I have no idea. Like I assume it's because they still have an API that they could like point things to, because Blogger has
they're
been in
just playing with
perpetual
stuff.
maintenance
That's
mode.
fair.
I think that's
Yeah.
probably what it was. I think this is probably something that just the engineers are playing with. Oh, speaking of engineers, they hired Jane Wong.
I know.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Who's that?
So she is the person who reverse engineered both the Twitter and the Facebook apps for like years and would find all the hidden
Oh.
stuff. She lived in Hong
Okay.
Kong and had been trying to get out for a while because she'd been public about her dislike for like China, and all the bullshit they're doing and the protests and stuff. And she announced she was moving into the Bay Area a few months ago, and we didn't know why. And then she announced that she was hired to work on Threads. And I know for a fact Twitter tried to hire her for a long time, and I think that it was difficult. I think the visa issues probably made it really hard. So the fact that Meta did the thing and got her out there, that's honestly, that was one of the few encouraging signs I had. I was like, okay, some of the talent you've hired to work on this is at least really understanding of the space and really, really good, even though I'll obviously miss her, reverse engineering and dissecting all of their app bundles.
Yeah, it's like I still miss Anand
Yes, still.
so much.
He was the best. He was the best. And then Bryan too, who like kind of took over from him. He left like 2 years later and also was at Apple. But
Yeah.
I kind of love that the guy who used to explain, how silicon stuff works to me is assuredly working on Apple Silicon. That's kind of an amazing glow up.
Yeah, maybe we can get the real Mac Pro one of these days.
Oh my God.
So can we talk real quick about the bear before
Yes.
we do Grapptitude?
I didn't know you were
Please.
going to talk about me, but okay.
Oh,
But bump.
what am I? Where do I fit into the gay community? I'm not a
I mean,
dolphin. I'm not a twink. I'm kind of a bear, I guess. I
No,
guess
you're.
I'm a.
an
I
otter.
think
You're
you're
an
too small for a
otter.
bear.
You think I'm an otter?
Yeah, I think you'd
Aren't
be
I
an
too
otter.
old to be an otter?
No, otters not necessarily age. You could also be. I mean, you could maybe be like a wolf.
Oh, like a silver fox.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, or
Cool.
he'd be like a silver daddy. Is or what's the term for that?
Yeah.
Like
Silver fox. So like Anderson Cooper is a silver fox, but
Yeah.
Anderson Cooper is like Anderson Cooper is like, you would be like a silver wolf, I would say, because like Anderson Cooper is too pretty.
What do you call a fat fox?
I don't know.
So
I love
anyway,
it.
the latest season of The Bear came out on Hulu, and I had been anxiously awaiting it because it's honestly some of the best writing
it's so good.
on TV right now. And there is an episode in the middle of the season that's a flashback to kind of like Carmi's origin story, his family. And like you see like where Mikey, his brother who died, fits into the family, and you meet his mom, played by Jamie Lee Curtis, who does a fucking award-winning job of playing a goddamn psycho. It was intense. I almost didn't want to watch the next episode because it was so stressful getting through that family episode. Have you guys seen? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I haven't watched
The
all of
Bear.
season 2.
So
I'm
you
not there
haven't
yet.
seen the family episode yet.
Not yet. I think I'm
Um,
like the one before that.
Be warned, it is stressful. It is John Mulaney is in it, which is just outstanding. He plays this like, there's a scene where he's talking to the Fact brothers, and they're like, if you give us $500, we're gonna like invest it in like trading cards, I think. And he's like, yeah, I'm an adult male. I can come up with $500, and you know what? I'm gonna give it to you because I'm entertained to see what you're gonna do with it. And it's just like a perfect Mulaney character. I love it. As we're talking, balloons keep flying up around my head, and I
Yeah.
don't know what it is I'm saying that makes that happen. I wish I could figure out how to do this on cue.
Yeah, I was gonna say what's the deal with that, but I was also kind of like, I love
It's
it. I
happened.
think.
It's happened. It happened to me last episode too, just like balloons. And I don't fucking
It's so
great. I think
great.
I say fucking great, and then balloons fly.
I was gonna say you did something in one of your automations. Like this is it's probably attached to your Stream Deck in some way. Like
There
you've
you
done
go.
something in your automations. I know it.
I love
Yeah.
it. I love it so much. I haven't watched any of The Bear.
What? You have to.
I will add it to my list. I was just rewatching all of the Mission Impossible movies.
That's a good time. They're fun.
They're again considerably better than they have any right to be.
Oh yeah,
Sure.
they're like the Fast and the Furious movies, but like good. You know what I mean? Like actually like good acting, and yeah.
I mean, listen. The person that I actually think is one of the best actors in the Fast and Furious movies is Tyrese.
Oh, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Look, and here's the thing. I will become a Tyrese stan for a second. John
Yes.
Singleton, R.I.P., one of our greatest filmmakers. His 2001 film Baby Boy, which was originally supposed to star Tupac, but he cast Tyrese instead because Tupac, was murdered. Is an amazing film. Taranji, what's her face? Cookie, obviously. Henson. Is in it. Ving Rhames. I can't think of who plays his mom. It is a fantastic portrait of kind of like a black like youth like coming of age sort of thing, and Tyrese is exceptional in it.
Also, Ving Rhames.
Yes,
My God, who's in all the Mission Impossible movies?
he's so good. He's so funny.
And also, that man is beautiful.
He is so beautiful. He is so beautiful.
Yeah, I also just started watching Hijack on Apple TV Plus, and that's
I
Idris
haven't seen
Elba.
that. Nice.
Another beautiful man. Yeah, I do love that the Fast and Furious movies got Ludacris and Tyrese.
Same.
It's
And Ludacris
too
also
funny.
Ludacris also a good actor.
Yeah.
I know that like it's a meme because it's not a great movie, but it is what it is. But Crash was an Oscar-winning film, and
Yeah.
like Ludacris was fucking in Crash, and he was
Was
good in
he?
it. Yes, and he
I
was
don't
good in
remember
it,
that.
and he was good in it.
Huh.
And he's a Chris is a good actor. Like Georgia State
Luda.
represent.
So
Little what?
speaking of Tupac, did you guys see Dear Mama?
No.
It's
No.
a documentary. It's a Tupac documentary. I think it's on Hulu, and it was actually I think it was like a multi-part miniseries, and it goes through like his like high school years, his upbringing with like the Black Panthers,
Mm-hmm.
and like kind of his gangstification and like his beliefs and his like multiple like the multiple times he'd almost been killed before he was killed.
Yep.
And it was enlightening. I was a Tupac fan. I could probably recite quite a few Tupac lyrics from memory. But I was just, another one of those white kids who dug gangster rap.
I
But
remember
it
I
was a
remember when
great
he was
doc.
I remember when he was shot, like that was like the biggest news in 7th grade. Like that was
Yeah.
like it was like it was
Yeah, Kurt Loder had a lot to say about that.
well, it was just nuts because we were all watching that fight, and then Tupac, who it seemed like he was going to be okay, because he was in the hospital for a few days. Like we thought he was going to be okay, and then he died. And like, I mean, I obviously remember Kurt Cobain and that being like a massive cultural moment, but I think Tupac was like the first one that really hit me because I was finally at an age where I could be like, oh shit,
Yeah. Yeah. I recommend anyone
I
who's
will watch this,
curious.
Dear Mama. Okay.
Dear Mama, yeah. All right,
Yeah,
let's do some Grapptitude.
That's Grapptitude.
Let's see who wants to kick it off.
I'll start.
Okay.
So the one that I picked is an app that came out, I think like at the end of June. So I like missed like its first week out there. So I apologize, Anders, but it's from Anders Borum, who created Working Copy and his what's his shell app, Shellfish or whatever, Shellfish app. So which are two iOS apps that are really great. Like Shellfish app is a SSH client, but also works with um the Files app on iOS, and Working Copy is, in my opinion, the best Git client available for iOS. Well, he released S3 Files, which is a universal app. It's $3 a month or it's $15 as a one-time purchase. And it's an S3 client that will let you access S3 compatible storage. So things like Amazon S3, Backblaze B2, Cloudflare R2, Oracle's whatever, like anything that uses the S3 spec, which is most services like DigitalOcean has them. And it'll basically let you integrate that inside the Files app, share sheet. You can use it with shortcuts, and it even works with Finder on Mac. And the way that he's doing this is that he's making it like an official file provider on Mac OS,
Yeah.
which is really, really interesting. And so you can literally have this, in your Finder and have like one of these drives always mounted. And yes, there have been ways to do that for a long time through apps like Transmit and a Forklift and others. But this, I think, is actually a really, really smart way. And to my knowledge, I haven't seen any others that would let you do this as like a file provider in the Files app on iOS. Like I've always had to use, like a third party kind of things to do that. So I've only been using this for like less than 12 hours. But I'm really impressed. I think Anders does great stuff. So
That's very cool.
this is great.
Yeah. One of my jobs right now at Oracle is to figure out their object storage has an S3 API.
Yep.
Like you can just port from Amazon to Oracle.
Yeah, and it's supported. It's called out as being supported.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. I should definitely write about that for Oracle. They would love that. Yeah. Cool. Bryan, do you wanna do a pick?
Sure, yeah. I switched my pick because I was thinking this is I'm gonna call out an app called SQL Pro Studio.
Oh yeah. Great app.
It's
Great app.
part of SetApp. It's made by Kyle Hankinson, who has like a sort of suite of SQL apps that he develops independently, and then also has a mud client, which I love because it takes me back to the days of like text-based adventures. But it's such a great, like, if you work with databases at all, if you work and like you have to query them, you often get stuck with a lot of like cross-platform Java-based
For
apps
sure.
to
Mhm.
manage those databases. And this is a fully featured, like straight up, Mac app for SQL database management. And I deal with SQL databases all the time at work. And so it's really, really wonderful. And I really, really love it. I used to use his apps before I got set up and was really thrilled to see them in setup. And he has iOS apps too. So if you need to manage them on iOS, you can do that as well.
That's awesome.
Speaking of setup, they just made their family. They made some changes to their family plan that actually, for most users, made the family plan cheaper or added more seats to it. A rare instance of a company modifying their pricing structure to the benefit of users for once.
That's amazing.
That's really great.
I got one extra seat, and I actually, everyone in my family who needs setup already has setup. But now I have one seat. I'm gonna offer it to Jeff, see if he
Yeah.
needs some setup.
Oh yeah, that's a great idea. That's a great
I've
idea.
actually, did you know that Setup has a corporate licensing process set up for Teams,
I didn't.
um,
Oh,
which
that's
is
really good.
only $10 a user a month?
Huh.
Oh, that's cool. I wonder if I can
Yeah,
get that
I'm
through
actually
our
going to
provisioning process.
exactly. That's what I'm having the conversation at Sonos, because I'm like, the number of people who use Macs at Sonos who I know, like, and to be able to have all of those apps sort of like, look, we like to rely on Setup's verification process instead of having to do all the verification yourself.
Right.
It'd be
Yeah.
great for our security team. Yeah, I would think
Yeah.
we would really love that.
Very cool. I am going to pick hardware this week. I just got the Stream Deck pedal. I swore I
Ooh.
wasn't gonna. All I really wanted was a cough button, right? I just wanted to like be able to mute my mic with my foot. And I first tried like this $18 USB pedal because I thought if I can do it for $18, great. But the pedal I bought, you have to use Windows to configure it, and it has to be set to like one specific keyboard key that it will send.
Jesus.
And when I plugged it into my powered USB hub, everything shut down because it drew too much power. How does a switch draw? I don't know. I do not understand, but it's a piece of shit. So I was like, fine, I'm going to get the Stream Deck pedal. And it has been great. And Better Touch Tool has great support for it. And it has 3 switches on it, and you can make all kinds of different things happen, and you can have application specific profiles. And yes, I have a cough button, and it's great, but I've also been playing around a lot with what I can do with Better Touch Tool. If I come up with any great automations, I'll share them in the future. But for right now, I'm just going to say it is a solid piece of hardware from Elgato that does exactly what it's advertised as. It costs like $80, which for a good piece of hardware isn't terrible. Pretty happy.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Love
I
that.
I was
Awesome.
looking at that. I have to say, like, I think that whatchamacallit, Elgato's stuff, like I buy almost everything they make because when it comes to the streaming gear stuff, they nail it. They nail it.
Yeah, I have 2 Stream Decks and a Stream Deck Plus and the Wave XLR and a key light and the pedal. I'm an
Totally.
Elgato stan.
Yeah, same. I was
okay,
gonna say,
so
go on.
the only thing I don't like, I have the Wave LP, the low
I don't know what
profile
that is.
mic. It's the low profile mic stand,
Okay.
and it's a little like it's loose. It doesn't.
Uh,
Yeah, the low profile mic stand is the only
Yeah,
thing that I've ever. Yeah.
their stuff's not perfect, but for the price, it does a great job, and they have a great return policy. And their customer support is very responsive. So when things do break, I've always been able to get a brand new one shipped to me at no charge.
Yeah, I was gonna say, didn't they like really like hook you up like when one of your stream decks broke? Like, didn't
But yeah,
they?
two of them.
Two of them, yeah. I was gonna say I've been impressed with that because I've got two Keylight Airs. I have one of their stands. I have the green screen, which I haven't used. I have the Camlink 4K. I have the HD 60s Plus. This was all from the working from home era.
Yeah, I have the Camlink too.
I've got the Camlink is fantastic. I've got the way to utilize your $1,000 camera as a webcam. Really good.
Did you ever have their H.264 stick?
Yes.
Yeah, back in the days when we needed to offload our H.264 encoding.
Yeah, I mean, shit. I had remember when they used to do like the ITV?
No. Oh yeah.
Yep.
I still have one of those new in box.
Me too.
I found it the
Me
other
too.
day.
Me too, actually. And what's funny is that like obviously they sold that business off or whatnot, and they got away from their Mac roots, which is fine. And Corsairs owned them for a while, but like I will always love Elgato, like going back to the Mac days for the H.264 stick, the ITV, the ITV Pro, like those things, because nobody else at that time was making any of these devices that would work on the Mac.
Yeah.
And it's weird because a lot of the stuff that they make still, you can find people who will do commodity versions and will work on Windows. And to your point, like you literally just described it, like with the pedal, where people will come up with like a cheaper version. And if you use Windows or whatever, that's fine. But if you need that level of polish, there are not any companies that do it. And I was worried when Corsair bought them, but they've only expanded. They've only gotten better. And I think Corsair has actually been very smart about recognizing we have the kind of premium streaming brand in this space. And by premium, I mean like for normal people to buy, not like getting into the professional. Oh my God, Bryan is showing us their puppy and it is the cutest thing that I've ever seen.
Yeah, Nathan just opened the door. He didn't know I was podcasting. And so I just got like 3 more of our puppies. This is Dr. Pink.
Dr. Pink.
He's a tricolor.
This is so great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would also mention that the Stream Deck pedal comes with a box of springs and switches, so you can change the tension and the tactility of the pedal. That's handy.
Brilliant. That's really nice.
That's really good.
All right. Well, I think that wraps up a good episode. Thanks for being here, Bryan.
Always. You know that. I'll always be here.
Thank you too, Christina. It's always nice to have you.
Thank you. And Bryan, yes, thank you for joining us. We love having you, and this is a good talk. I'm glad that
it's always great to spend time with both of you.
All right, you guys get some sleep.
Get some sleep.
Get some sleep. That was Dr. Pink.
The system is going down low.
Hey there, good people. Before you go, we have a bunch of new places where you can interact with us. Please check out our Instagram feed, our YouTube channel, Twitter, of course, and sign up for the Overtired newsletter, which will sort of pick up where the show leaves off, with expanded show notes, a little bit of what the 3 of us get up to between episodes, and let's face it, there'll be some musings. How can you resist musings? You'll find details for all the ways to interact with us in the show notes and at overtired.com. And thank you, as always, for listening.